What a beautiful night. Back here in the garage, let's see what we're up to. Alright, so I just made this video. Got deleted. Holy cow, I talked for like half an hour. Oh, I'm so bummed out. Well, anyway, let's remake it. So, here making the, this is my extreme deflagration burner. So this is what I'm working on right now. And in the process of making this, I've come across, and over the years I've known about something called a pulse detonation engine. Let me hang this camera up over here. Can't believe I managed to screw up two different cameras. That's my new camera over there, got on the tripod. So we're going to be testing that out to see what kind of quality and how good it works with the microphone and things like that. So anyway, you might hear some wind noise because we've got a massive windstorm here in Michigan tonight. Close this door. So getting back to it, pulse detonation engines. Super interesting subject, something I've been interested in. If you don't know what they are, you can Google it. I'm going to talk about it for a while. I have an invention based off of it. I call it a pulse compression detonation engine. Now, those have been invented. The way that I see it done may have been made. I haven't been able to find a video. I found one little diagram, something similar to what I'm thinking about. But other than that, I haven't seen much about it. So I have this idea for a pulse detonation engine. If you look those up, they're amazing. So we're going to talk about it. Pulse detonation engine uses actual detonation. Most combustion reactions are what are known as deflagration, hence the name, extreme deflagration engine, or extreme deflagration oil burner. What I'm working on right here. But detonation occurs at hypersonic speeds, whereas normal combustion and normal explosions are not detonations. They happen at supersonic or subsupersonic speeds. And hypersonic, if you're not aware, is very fast. Just to give you an example, let's just use the backfiring of a car, for example. Now, if you're not old, if you're young, you might not have ever heard of backfire. But if you're older like I am, you've seen Uncle Buck, the movie, this is a classic. Backfires are a specific circumstance that occurs with a car when the conditions are right, and they're very loud. I mean, it sounds like a bomb went off or a firework. And it's pretty crazy because in a car exhaust is essentially just a tube. It's an open-ended tube on one side, and you got your engine on the other. And for that circumstance to occur, the way it works is you have reverberations from the car exhaust going on. You got supersonic, exhaust gas is moving supersonically, and it's tuned inside of that exhaust in such a way to where it's bouncing around in there. And what happens is, it's not fully understood by science. If you want to argue about that in the comments below, go ahead and do that. I did argue with somebody about this before. It is not. But what happens is you got an open-ended tube, but the supersonic movement of the gas and the combustion starts to occur, normal combustion in that exhaust. So for a moment, a flame wall is created, all right? But from the supersonic reverberations, it actually stops or creates a barrier for just a moment in time, and that barrier moves back and creates a very large compression. Not like 5 to 1 or 10 to 1, no, we're talking way higher for just a moment. But when that compression and those conditions are just right, you get a detonation. And when that occurs, that high compression and that detonation flies out that open end of the exhaust, the path of least resistance. You got the engine here, you get the open end, and that's where you get that loud kaboom. Another example is, to give you an idea, a potato gun. A potato gun, if you were to just take a potato gun and spray some fuel and air in there and light it with an ignition source, it's just going to foop. It's not going to do anything. So that gives you an idea of the conditions have to be exactly right for this to occur. You can't just take a tube, close it off on one end. Now you've probably seen pulse jets. Pulse jets are, you might even think I'm talking about a pulse jet. I am not. Pulse jets were invented way back in the 30s, the first jet engine. Essentially, there was no turbine or impeller. They come in U-shapes. They're straight pipe with like a valve on the end of them, like a reed valve that lets air and fuel in. And you got a fuel supply. Now, I've used those things. There's foggers that are actually pulse jets. I've used those. I ran little mini pulse jets. I know all about jet engines. I have part of a jet engine right here, actually. This is the impeller from a jet engine, so I know what I'm talking about. But pulse detonation engine is nothing like that. It's similar in pretense, but it works in a different way. It's hypersonic. You've probably seen supersonic diamonds in a rocket exhaust. That's where those little diamonds come out. This is faster than that. This is hypersonic. You're talking ramjet, scramjet territory. This is a lot of power. And basically, the problems they've run into, if you go on YouTube and you look up PDEs, you watch every video like I have that there is on them, there's really not a lot. You go on Wikipedia, you do some research, you do the reading up, read all about it. There are so many different designs for jet engines and pulse jet engines. But you type in PD, Pulse Detonation Engine, or PCDE, Pulse Compression Detonation Engine. Yeah, there's some stuff out there. I've pretty much read it all. But there's really not a lot in comparison. And the beauty of these engines is they're more efficient than jet engines, if made properly. And they also produce much higher speeds. There's some drawbacks, like they're louder. But essentially, they're the future of engines. Now, I'm going to get a little bit into the government's use of these things a little bit later. But let's get back to the function and the design in my invention. So, my invention is a pulse compression detonation engine. I come across a diagram and I kind of saw this, but I'm going to put it into perspective for you. Just think of like a small engine or an air compressor, and you've got basically a piston that goes up and down and it compresses air. Now in my engine, I want somebody to make this. I'm not going to make it, but I'd love for somebody out there maybe watching this, if you got a lot of time, go ahead and make it. Because I'm an inventor and I'm busy with my things. I could just think of the ideas, but I could no way do the hundreds and hundreds of experiments required to make something this complicated. Because essentially you're creating a tuned backfire engine is what this thing is, I thought. And so you've got an air compressor. That's what you would want to think, or a small engine, or a big one. Doesn't matter, but you got a piston goes up and down. It's got an intake valve, and that pulls in your air, and you can either use, a carburation system to bring in your fuel-air mixture, or a fuel injection, and that's sprayed down into the piston. As soon as the piston hits bottom dead center, the fuel is injected, okay, through this valve and in the air. Then the intake valve closes, the piston comes up, and, well, obviously when the piston's going down, you're pulling in your air and your fuel, and when it's coming back up, it's, with this engine, it'd be more ideal to where it was about halfway down, you start to inject it. But basically, you gotta get the fuel in the air in there. And when the piston comes back up, there's no exhaust valve. It's just open into a tube, all right? And that's your jet engine. It's just an open tube. And what would need to be done is somebody needs to design it in such a way to create a controlled backfire. So as that piston comes back up, there's obviously a high power detonation coil. That's how pulse detonation engines work, that are tuned to the electric motor is spinning this engine. It's not running itself. An electric motor pushes this piston up and down, and it's in time with this ignition system that's going to ignite this fuel air mixture, and boom, you might only get combustion at first, but once it's set up in just such a way and the conditions are right, and you get an actual detonation, and then you can make that happen in not just a few cycles per second, but a lot of cycles per second. Now you're talking some serious thrust. And all you have is an electric motor, a piston, and an ignition system. But rather than propelling a piston up and down, you're just creating pure thrust. And that's a pulse compression detonation engine. Now it's got to take advantage of what I was talking about earlier. the supersonic reverberations within that tube have to be just right. And the conditions would have to be just right. That has to be tuned. And that's something that's beyond my capabilities. That's, that's like rocket technicians and engineers and things like that. And that leads me, we'll just leave that there. Somebody make that. Somebody work on that. I want to see an actual one. I've seen a lot of videos of kind of home-built jobs. Saw one guy had used a Tesla valve, which if you look up Tesla valves are very interesting. I actually thought of that with this before, and there was some guy that actually made a video. It doesn't have very many views, and he made one in his backyard, and it's pretty sweet. I mean, that's the best one I've seen that's home-built. If you type in Tesla valve and PDE, you'll probably come across it. But it's just, that's about how fast it's going. You need faster. So, and you need to be able to sustain it. And that's where this idea I have is coming in. And it would work if somebody just worked on it. And so anyway, so let's get to the government's use of this. This is how it's so amazing to me. Maybe even getting into conspiracy theory territory. All right, so I'll wear the SR-71 Blackbird, how fast it went. Okay, so let's talk about the only time that our government attempted to use a pulse detonation engine on an aircraft. And they had this whole program, DARPA and some other people had this whole program to make this jet. Now, the name escapes me. I could post a link to it. But basically, this thing was going to be designed to go Mach 5. That's fast. It's 5 times the speed of sound. It's like SR faster than SR-71. That's fast. And no ramjets or scramjets or any of that. Just simply powered by a pulse detonation engine. Okay? Now, they were successful on a low-speed test. And after that point, they buried it. Oh, no. But I know that they figured it out, and that's why they buried it. You know how I know they figured it out? Because they made a glider and tested it 2 times. I actually went Mach 20. And they talk about ramjets and scramjets. Well, from what I've gathered from reading all about it, is they actually used pulse detonation engine. They were able to achieve Mach 20. And they ran these things 2 times, and they ran it for 9 minutes apiece. And one, they canceled the test, and the other one, they crashed into the ocean. I can maybe post a link to that. Maybe you got to do your own research. But, yeah, that's amazing. Mach 20. I mean, that's the speeds we're talking about. And basically why I think the government buried this is because it's just such a powerful technology. You figure jet engines are very complicated. They're very inefficient compared to a pulse detonation engine. And they can't produce the speeds. You just can't go above a certain speed, Mach 2, Mach 3. You're not going any faster than that because it's just supersonic. Pulse detonation engines, on the other hand, the sky's the limit, literally. You can make a rocket engine called a PDR, pulse detonation rocket, and these can go into space. All they need is an oxygen supply or a liquid oxygen fuel or some kind of oxidizer, and also, just like I was talking about, that tuned tube is essentially all it is, and a pumping system to inject the fuel. And normally you would take air from the atmosphere, but when air in the atmosphere is not available, you can use oxidizer or liquid oxygen to make the combustion happen and get you where you need to go at hypersonic speeds rather than supersonic. And the way they do that now is they use what are called scramjets and ramjets. If you look them up, super complicated. They only work at certain speeds. PDEs can go from a dead stop all the way to Mach speeds. No in between. Different atmospheric conditions, no problem. As long as everything's tuned right and the research is done, yes, this is like rocket scientist stuff. But it's way beyond me. But I love talking about it because I just find anything kind of weird or off the wall, I just find super interesting. I'm sure if you're watching this, I'm pretty off the wall. You're probably similar to me. So anyway, I guess that concludes what I needed to talk about. Somebody make a PDE, and I want to see a video of it. I want to see a really good one. It goes, in the hertz, a lot of hertz or even kilohertz of detonation. I want to see that thrust. I want to see thrust diamonds produced by it. I want to hear that loud ass sound. and I can't do it. I'm too busy with my extreme deflagration burner and all my other projects and melting metal and my inventions that are good for the world, that can help the world. I know that some technology like that, PD, be used for military purposes, most likely. That's probably why they buried it. They don't want other countries getting it, being able to send aircraft at Mach 20, no problem, with super simple technology. You know what I mean? That just leads to more war, more missiles, more killing. That's the inventor's conundrum, is you invent something or you work on something and military takes it, buries it, or, you know, and uses it for their own uses. I mean, they seize 5,000 patents a year. But anyway, this is getting to be a long, drawn-out video. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, you want to see more, you want to see this extreme deflagration burner, you want to watch me melt metal, just go ahead and like, subscribe, comment below. Comments are the most important thing. I appreciate them. All right, have a great night.